Well, in other developments from Ukraine, the city of Lviv has been hit by a number of missiles. The first strikes in the west of the country in more than a week. The city's mayor says 3 electricity substations have been damaged. Parts of the city are without power, and there are outages at some medical facilities. He said there's also serious damage to infrastructure and interruptions in the water supply.
The Ukrainian group Antila has teamed up with Ed Sheeran to release a new song, partly filmed and recorded while they were serving in the war against Russia. Antila are one of the biggest musical acts in Ukraine. They stopped working in order to join the military, though. Proceeds from this song, which has so far been viewed more than 1.5 million times on YouTube, will go to help the people of Ukraine.
President Zelensky has confirmed that the first convoy of 166 civilians to escape Mariupol has reached Zaporizhia, but the Red Cross says that many more have been left in hell.
Power supplies in Lviv are hit after Russia's first missile strikes on western Ukraine in over a week, and its forces continue bombarding the Mariupol steelworks where hundreds of people remain trapped. Parts of the Ukrainian city of Lviv are without power after Russian missiles struck the western city for the first time in more than a week.
Meanwhile, hundreds of civilians remain trapped inside a steel plant in Mariupol. It's after more than 150 people were able to escape the besieged city during a brief ceasefire. Here's Mark Labelle with more.
The relentless attack on Mariupol's steel plant, an industrial heartland with its heart ripped out. A Ukrainian military commander says as part of that assault, Russians are attempting to land soldiers by boat. One of the 100,000 residents stuck nearby remains helpless.
I don't know where to go at all. I am not alone. Imagine, everything is destroyed. I've got nowhere to go.
A brief ceasefire had allowed some to escape the steelworks after 2 months of what must have been their darkest days.
How we were living, to be honest, it was horrible. From morning until night we were bombarded.
We lived in hope that every day would be the last day in this hell, that we would go home to a peaceful Mariupol, but now it is non-existent.
The operation to free these women and children has been full of false dawns. Now, finally, a chance to step into the light.
Today, 156 people arrived in Zaporizhia, women and children. They were in bunkers for more than 2 months. Without a doubt, we'll continue doing everything we can to get all our people out of Mariupol, out of Azovstal. It's hard, but we need everyone, civilian and military.
After a week's lull, the return of missile strikes in Ukraine's west. In Lviv, power stations were pounded. Its mayor says electricity was cut off in a few districts, with outages at some medical facilities. The search for justice also continues. Ukraine's prosecutors say the first Russian serviceman suspected of being involved in the murders of hundreds of civilians here in the town of Bucha has been identified. But the daily misery for many continues, whether trapped, targeted, or living in terror. Mark Labelle, BBC News.
Well, our correspondent Joe Inwood is in the city of Lviv this morning, which has been hit by a number of Russian missiles for the first time in over a week. Joe, what more can you tell us?
Yeah, this is a city that often feels quite removed from the war. I was out with some colleagues in the centre of the city having dinner when the missiles struck. Our cameraman Rob said, "Oh, I thought I heard something in the distance," and suddenly there was a change in mood. Everyone stopped talking. There was a kind of a hush over the city, and it turns out that's exactly what had happened. 3 missiles, we believe, maybe more, had landed at places around the city. We think they were electrical substations hit, and this has left large parts of Lviv without power and some areas without water, including medical facilities as well. Now, why was Russia doing this? We think probably it's targeting rail infrastructure, and that's because the rail infrastructure of the west of this country has been crucial in getting the heavy weaponry, getting the equipment that's so important to the fight in the east. Now, this is where it's coming through, and we're also seeing today reports of why that equipment matters so much. We understand there was a Russian shelling at a coking plant in the town of Avdiivka, that's just north of occupied Donetsk, and we also found out that yesterday was the highest civilian death toll in the Donbass since the attack on Kramatorsk railway station. So the equipment, the stuff that Prime Minister Boris Johnson was telling Ukraine it was going to be sending more of yesterday, well, today we find out why they need it.
Well, as fighting ramps up in the east of Ukraine, the country's armed forces are increasing their efforts to train their volunteers.
Some of those heading for the front line have never picked up a gun before, but in a matter of days they could be facing the Russian army. Here's Ben Brown.
Even if you've never picked up a gun in your life, your country needs you. That's the message to Ukrainians of all ages. In a disused factory somewhere in the capital, Kyiv, it's time for target practice for the men and women of Karpatska Sich, a battalion of volunteers. Very soon, they'll be heading to the front line, where they'll be desperately needed reinforcements. Uliana was a horse trainer before the war. Her friend Alexandra was a tattooist. In a matter of days, they could be facing the Russian army.
I pick up a gun here for the first time, and I'm doing well. I learned shooting here, and I have hit a bull's eye.
I have the support of my family, and that helps me, because we must all stick together. We must protect ourselves and our country, and that's what motivates me. The guys who come back from the front line say we are the good guys. We fight and they retreat. And that motivated me. I want to help them even more.
Their commanders say what they lack in experience, they make up for with their motivation.
Why it's important? Because it's our motherland. We are free people and we are not slaves. And Ukrainians never going to become slaves. We prefer die.
And you think you can win this war?
Yes, we're going to win this war.
This unit says around 20% of its volunteers come from all around the world. Places like the United States, the UK, Canada, Colombia, Brazil, Argentina, and former Soviet republics like Georgia and Latvia. Countries that feel profoundly threatened by Moscow. With Russia's offensive in the east of this country intensifying, Ukraine needs to get reinforcements to the front line as soon as possible, however raw the recruits may be. There's no time to lose. Ben Brown, BBC News, Kyiv.